Hi, good evening, Oakdale family and friends. Welcome to a special edition of B.L.A.S.T. We have several guests, as you can see on, who are going to tell you some amazing information, a little different from what we've been usually hearing, things about COVID this, COVID that, vaccinate this, vaccinate that. Well, we're going to hear some real stories, some real personal stories from three people. We're going to hear from Sister Sandra Hudson. We're going to hear from her sister, Ellen Hudson, and also so we'll start off with Carol Bell, and Carol Bell will and from here. So Carol, you can introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you, Virginia. And welcome and good evening to all that's on this session tonight. My name is Carol Bell, as Virginia mentioned. And my hope for all is that we find you healthy and safe this evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. And as we share and discuss, this vicious disease and this impact of COVID-19 on our community. And I also want to say thank you to the Hudson family as well for your willingness to share your story and your testimony, as we were just speaking about, that may prove to be quite helpful for other folks that are still highly concerned about becoming vaccinated against this virus. And then finally, many thanks I'd like to say to Oakdale Covenant, to Reverend Dr. Griffin and his health navigators for inviting me to participate in tonight's session. Oakdale Covenant is working in tandem with a national program named Choose Healthy Life. I represent Choose Healthy Life for the Chicago region. Oakdale is among two other churches that are a part of this program, Choose Healthy Life. Oakdale being the lead church for the Chicago region. Greater Mount Vernon Baptist Church is another partner. And then our final partner that's active with Choose Healthy Life is New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church on the west side. Choose Healthy Life has partnered nationally with Black clergy in the Black church across our nation. And because of the devotion and the concern of the community by the Black church, we thought it would behoove us to use that institution to really reach brown and Black folk in our community. A little background about Choose Healthy Life. It was developed by a young lady out of New York City, Deborah Fraser House, whose work is to help eradicate the health disparity in the African American community. She had presented another initiative back in the 80s for Black men with AIDS and was gifted with a national program from that federal administration, and it was highly successful because what she was able to do was to create a program that was sustainable, scalable, where you could see the impact and the numbers. And the approach to the program was transferable from community to community. So she used that same strategy in building Choose Healthy Life at the onset of this pandemic in early 2020. The life is centered around the Black church, very deliberately targeted at the Black church, because we understand that the Black church is the voice in many cases of our communities. She took the program to the Biden administration and was able to get awarded $18 million in funding to support the church in their efforts to reach out to the community, to educate folk, inform about COVID, test folk, and then ultimately vaccinate folk. And she knew that the churches would need a little bit of help in this outreach effort. And so that was a tremendous feat of receiving that level of funding. And what she did was went and partnered with United Way of New York to be the fiscal agent, if you will, to help deploy the funds to the churches around the nation. Currently, there are 120 churches involved in Choose Healthy Life across 13 states. She also created within the program the partnership with Black Clergy Leadership Health Leadership Council, which is led by Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Calvin Butts of Obsidian Church in New York. So they're the chairpersons over the program for Choose Healthy Life and the clergy leadership for this program. Between the two of them and the Council of Choose Healthy Life, they selected and identified churches that they were affiliated with across the country to ask to partner in this program. And we actually had 5 churches in the Chicago region to be asked to join the Choose Healthy Life, with, again, articulating that Oakdale Covenant gratefully accepted to be the lead church for our region. Choose Healthy Life started in March of 2021. And I want to share with you some astonishing statistics of the impact that the Black church has graciously and with their passion been able to affect our community. So from March 2021 through the second week of December, actually December 12th, just a week or so ago, here are some of the statistics of the impact from all of the efforts and the results and the outreach that the Black church employed. So with all the 20 churches, 120 churches, they were able to impact 12,100,000 folk in outreaching to them. And the outreaching would be in serving information and informing the community, passing out flyers with COVID information in vaccine locations, testing locations, doing door-to-door canvassing, partnering with businesses in their local communities, but reaching 12,100,000 folk to the federal administration and to HRSA, which is the health agency of Biden's administration. HRSA represents the Health Resource and Services Agency, which is where the funding for COVID is allocated from. So that 12 million people is a tremendous, noteworthy impact. Among the 120 churches, there have been 570 testing events, and those events are still happening today. 18,170 folk have been tested for COVID. There have been 676 vaccination clinics hosted at local Black churches or their affiliate partners, and 52,605 folk have been vaccinated. And those numbers, again, are from March 2021 through December 12th. I just want to say many, many thanks to Oakdale and all the tremendous work that you've done in this vein. We know and we see, I was just listening today, that Omicron is spreading across countries, and that there's a potential for a 4th vaccination before this whole pandemic is eradicated. And it takes the Black church and people on the ground, grassroots, to really influence and help to educate folks so that we could stay healthy and safe. We know that in the Black community, there is a health disparity, not just with COVID, but with some of our other more common diseases. And so the Black church is looked upon as the institution that need to be a part of working with the community, educating the community, and helping to close the gap, if you will, for Brown and Black folk. So with that, I will take pause. Again, many thanks, Oakdale, Virginia, for inviting me to be a part of this. And thank you again for all the work that you've done through the Choose Healthy Life program.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for the opportunity to partner as well, because prior to United Way coming on, we actually had started 2 vaccine clinics, and our next vaccine clinic at Oakdale will be January 7th, which is Friday from 10 to 4. So moving on, so our next person that you'll hear from is Ellen Hudson. Miss Ellen Hudson will share her story and she'll introduce herself as well. This is the sister of Sister Sandra Hudson. Miss Ellen Hudson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen Hudson, and I'd like to give honor to you all's pastor, Pastor Griffin, as well as to my pastor, Bishop James Ketchum. And I'm just grateful to you all and just everyone. I'm just so grateful because of prayer. I'm here today. I'm truly here today because of prayer. Okay. I was one that was about to get vaccinated. The very day that I was admitted into the hospital, just waiting on my day to be vaccinated after seeing the news over and over again, you know, all the patients laying up there connected to the machines and everything, that put something on my mind outside of hearing all the different stories about this is man-made, this is what's going on, that's going to happen. But my mind was set and I had made an appointment to get vaccinated. I thought I was doing all the right things, keeping my hands clean, keeping my mask on, you know, just staying 6 feet and just staying with, you know, away from a lot of people. You know, I often get asked when I tell someone that I had COVID, well, where did you get it from? How did you get it? No, it's hard to say because I didn't visit. I only went to the store. And I think at one point, possibly church. So that's a difficult question to answer. My thing is that when I did get admitted to the hospital, I will tell you, I was there for 4 weeks. You know, I didn't realize how sick I was. I didn't know my oxygen was so low. I just knew I was sick, and I got there and they admitted me immediately. They admitted me immediately, and I was grateful to that because it's like I start seeing things that I wasn't supposed to see. And after being admitted, put in intensive care, I look back now and only can remember the latter 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks, I guess I was in and out. But I do know later on that I know prayer was going up. Prayer was definitely going up. And I thank you all. I'm grateful for that. Prayer does change, okay? And I have to say that because after being in the hospital for 4 weeks, and you might not look at me now and tell, I lost about 60, 70 pounds. But at this present time, I did eventually get all of my activities back. And of course, I put the weight back on. But it was a struggle because I was put on oxygen. Knew nothing about that. Nothing. At the time when it was time for me to come home, they sent me home with oxygen. Knew nothing about that. They say, oh, you'll be through with this soon. Soon. But I just know prayers were going up. And I thank God for right now, today, I'm without the oxygen. And I came home April 26th, I believe it was. And I had oxygen for maybe 2 weeks, but it seemed like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, you know. But I thank God that it didn't last no more than 2 weeks. And I'm here today to tell you that you need to do what you need to do for yourself. Because if you're not necessarily might be harming yourself, you could be a carrier and harm someone else. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't know. I didn't know. Don't know where it came from. But I'm grateful today. I'm really grateful today because I was in such a way. When I go back to the doctor, whenever I'm in the doctor's office now, and they look at my records, what do they say to me? Oh, you were sick. Oh, you were terribly sick. And they look at me like, are you really here today? But yes, it was a struggle. I had therapy, it was a struggle. I thought I could get up and just walk after laying there for over 4 weeks. I thought I could get up and just walk like it was nothing, but I couldn't do that. All my strength, everything was just gone. But again, the prayers of the righteous. Prayers were going up. Prayers were going up. Prayers were going out. And I'm so thankful to be here today. I thank you all. I thank you all for allowing me to be here and share my story. I truly am. And I thank you again. And I hope I didn't miss nothing, but I just, I want to get it out there for you all, okay? And if anybody wanted to say anything or ask me anything, that'll be fine too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. God, for real, is a healer.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
And the prayers were going up.
Yes.
We know there's nothing impossible with God.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have questions probably towards the end. So give
Okay.
everyone an opportunity to just share. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course.
Great. Sister Sandra.
Yes. Thank you, my sister Ellen, for sharing your story. However, from seeing it from my point of view, it was really a hard experience. It was watching my sister, I'm gonna say, on her deathbed. That was the most scariest moment for me in my life. And if you got questions about getting the vaccine, please get it. Get it, because the experience that I had walking through, wondering if my sister was going to live or die, was really hard. And not only did she have COVID, 3 of her children and my brother all had COVID. 2 in the hospital. The other 3 was not as bad off and was able to kind of stay in isolation at home and get through the experience because they had been vaccinated. And my brother also had been vaccinated. And then, like my sister Ellen say, her experience was much further in depth because of the fact that she did not have any vaccination in her system, any vaccine in her system, and therefore did not have that antibody to fight off the disease. And it attacked her lungs. She was there, not breathing on her own. They kept calling us over and over again, talking about putting on the ventilators. We kept on saying, no, wait. No, wait. They kept on saying, no, she's not breathing on her own. We must put a machine on her. No, I mean, God, and every day I was listening to, I will never forget Tasha Cobb's He Hold My Hand. That song just really gave me faith and necessary power to believe in the God that I serve, to hold on to life on behalf of my sister. But then at the same time, we're looking at, so many people seem to be in doubt, but that's a hard experience to go through. Looking at someone, because you couldn't go up to visit, and then eventually we were able to do Zoom, and then looking at her on Zoom, it just seemed like she was laying there fighting, laying there just, in fear of her life. It was just a moment to look at that was so scary. It was so scary. I never experienced nothing like that before in my life. And again, I say, I feel that the vaccination worked. I feel that it's necessary to have, I feel that it helps, in situations, where people seem to be in doubt about it. But I myself, through the experience that I've had, I would say, get the shot, cover yourself. And if you got to look at one hand or the other, it's like, look to save your life, save your life by being covered with the vaccination, because the other thing I want to say that, it's so many other elements that goes along with that. You deal with trauma, you deal with depression, you deal with isolation, you go through all type of mental aspects. And then let's not forget about grieving. If you lose someone, you got to go through the stages of grief and loss, so we want to try to avoid those different traumatic experiences that might occur from us not taking that vaccine shot. You know, I feel like it's something that's really needed in our community. It took me a while as well, because you can't feed into different things that society is telling you. What you have to do is weigh, okay, will it be better for me to take the shot and live? Or do I take a chance on my own and say, okay, I'll take a chance? Well, I would prefer to have some protection than to not have none. So the experience was an overwhelming experience. I prayed through it. I asked for prayer from my church, and God brought us through. He brought my sister through. He healed her body. He healed my brother, and everyone is functioning today, and everybody is vaccine protected. We have got our 2 shots and booster shots as well, and any further questions? Should I talk further, or is there anything else I need to say at this point? My experience was traumatic. It was traumatic. It was hard. It was hard. It was restless. Calling the hospital every day. You don't eat, you don't sleep because you're afraid you get ready to lose a loved one. And that fear, is something that I experienced that I've never experienced before in my life, and I never want to go through that again. So again, I say, if you have the opportunity to make the choice whether or not that you want to get the shot, get the shot, protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and even if you have side effects, they're not as bad as the misery that you will experience of losing life, or something of that nature. So without any further ado, thank you very much for having me, and I'm here and available for questions if there are any for me. Thank you.
We'll have some questions for you at the end for sure. We're giving everyone the opportunity to talk, and come on back with the questions. Thank you so much. All right, Vernell.
Good evening, Oakdale family and visiting friends. First of all, I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here and to hear Sister Ellen and see that you are doing much better. That is truly a blessing.
It is.
So very happy for that. My COVID experience, it was a crazy one. Just overall, everything that was going on between the George Floyd situation and the looting, and now COVID, and people are getting sick, and some are not making it. So it was pretty traumatic, and it was a bit scary. I personally was very hesitant with the vaccination. I didn't trust it. And truthfully, the only reason I did get the vaccination is because it became a requirement for my job. And if I didn't have the vaccination by a certain date, then I would no longer be paid for doing my job. That and between me and my mother forcing it and pushing and telling me I need to and I should, and we had a pretty heated conversation about it. But deep down in my gut, something was telling me just not to. I didn't trust it for anything. It just seemed like they were kind of making things up on the fly. They didn't really know what's going on. They kind of just saying this because they feel like this would need to be said. And, so I kind of rebelled it for a while until I finally just went on ahead and got it. So I got the Pfizer shot. And after getting it, I was, a little worried and hoping I didn't feel any side effects, and I didn't. Um, and my deepest reason for really not wanting it is because I've always been one to take my health and my wellness pretty seriously, and make sure I take my vitamins and drink plenty of water and fruits and vegetables, and my body just felt strong without it. I'm not somebody who gets sick very often. I don't get flu shots. I never had chicken pox or measles or anything like that. And it's just like, why do I need this shot? And I'm already okay. And now you want to put this foreign object inside of me. I'm not sure what it's going to do. It doesn't sound like you guys are really sure what it's going to do. And I'm supposed to just trust it. But with that being said, I did get the shot. I feel great. I feel confident. I feel strong. And so I think it's kind of your personal choice of what you should do. And if anything, I just want to stress that regardless whether you get the shot or you don't get the shot, just make sure that you are taking care of yourself physically for what you need. Make sure you're getting those vitamins and drinking your water and getting some exercise and just doing the things that your body needs to be prepared to fight if you are exposed to COVID. So yeah, that's pretty much been my experience with it. I think the scariest moment dealing with COVID was when my parents actually got sick and I couldn't do anything to help. You got to quarantine, so it's like you just kind of have to sit back and pray and hope the best happens. So I think that was probably the scariest moment for me dealing with COVID. But yeah, that's been my experience. I don't see myself getting the booster shot. I took my 2 shots, and I'm gonna stay prayerful and keep moving forward and hope that God keeps me covered, keeps all of us covered in whatever we do.
You talked a little bit about when your parents were sick. What kind of things did you do for self-care to help yourself get through that situation of your parents being ill? I know you mentioned prayer as one of the most important things. What other kind of things mentally did you kind of go through to help deal with the stress of your parents being ill?
Just staying connected, and I had a whole village that had my back. So, family, friends who were calling and checking on them and dropping care packages off at the house and, just continuously checking in and checking the status and, making sure they're all right. And that kind of gave me some strength because at the point that I felt that it was really bad, I don't feel like I could have held on. I would have just went right in head first. But I could, and I know my mom, she's going to take all the necessary steps and she's going to make sure she does everything she needs to do. And I knew me staying away would give her an extra boost of strength, not having to worry about me coming and being exposed. And so after a while, I could tell that they were doing better and I could see that they were gaining strength and getting ahead of it. So that helped make things a lot easier.
Awesome. Many people don't know this. Vernell brought a friend. He and his friend, his female friend, were the first guests at our first vaccine clinic.
I didn't even know that until
so Kenneth, tell me how you went from, okay, I'm not really doing this, and then I'm doing this because of my job, but how did you convince somebody else to come with you and do the same? How did that work?
Same situation, because I'm a CPS teacher and she is a CPS teacher as well. Okay. So we were both under the same deadline and we both had the same feelings going into it. And, we both came to the conclusion, if we're going to do it, at least do it together. And then I felt better going through my church that prayed me into this world and basically raised me from childhood. So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable actually going through the church and getting it done.
Awesome.
In Virginia, if I might just make a comment off
Sure.
of what Vernell just said, that is the pure premise of Choose Healthy Life, that testimony. The congregation, the parishioners of the Black church, trusting that institution, trusting, having faith and belief, and with the clergy also standing up and supporting to being vaccinated. Choose Healthy Life program, and the young lady that created the program knew a lot of folk wanted to hear from their clergy as to, what action to take against this deadly virus. And that's why the program has been so highly successful, because of the faith base in the congregation trusting that institution.
You're absolutely right, Carol. As a matter of fact, Pastor Griffin is really pro-health. I mean, really pro-health. He started talking about the vaccine way before we had our first vaccine clinic. Every Sunday, he would tell people of the importance of vaccinations. And then when the booster came along, he really was our biggest cheerleader. And he would tell people, look, I have not grown a third eye or third arm, letting people know that it's okay. But even for me as a medical professional, when they first came out with the vaccine, I was a vaccine hesitant too, not hesitant to the point that I'm not going to take it, but I just needed more information.
Right.
And the more information that, I found, and the more research that I did, I was like Sister Ellen said, I was kind of going in that direction. I was 50% there. But what was the game changer when I saw people who didn't look like me coming into my community, taking the vaccine, standing in line to get the vaccine? I said, my turn. I need one. I need a vaccine right now. And that was the game changer for me. And from there, then I, of course, my whole family started to get vaccinated. But my daughter, who's an essential worker, she was anti-vaccine. She was like, I'm not taking that. I'm not doing that. I say, look at here, girl. If you stay at this house, you have to get the vaccine. And of course, all of us are vaccinated, but still, it's really, the church is essential in so many ways, because hurting people, they go to the hospital of the church. The hospital is filled with people who have all kinds of issues and things like that. So I'd like to ask the same question to you, Sister Sandra, about self-care, especially with your mental health background. Can you talk a little bit about, those who experience something like what you experienced with your sister being so severely ill? How do you do self-care through something like that?
Well, it's important to stay busy. You stay busy. You try to stay in the moment. Remind yourself. You do self-talk. I was reading. We're a pretty close-knit family, and so we kind of like bond together as a family. Kind of stayed in touch. Was constantly on the phone with one another, and so it's having a social connection. Keeping yourself connected, keeping yourself focused. Every time your mind kind of drift off into the problem, you try to do and act on other things to kind of take you away from the problem, and so that you can build your strengths and get away from your weaknesses. The weaknesses, the person's sick. And so, so you try to keep yourself busy. You can take soak baths, meditate, right, and socialize with others,
Sister
Yeah.
Ellen, let me come back to you again. So here you are, have no clue what's going on for those first 2 weeks when you're hospitalized. Then when you finally realize, whoa, I was really sick, about to die, how did you move from that to where you are now?
How did I move from that point? Well, first of all, I was treated really well. I was treated really well. I was treated absolutely great. There was the one nurse who said to me, "You're gonna go home. You're gonna go home. You're gonna get up out of this bed and you're gonna go home." Okay, that stuck in my mind, and it motivated me because I wanted to get up out the bed and I couldn't. So they started me with that process. They started me with that process. Okay, and then again with family, with family, we just support each other, and it kind of brought me through. Like we said, we could not visit, and so we would get online with Zoom, and I was so weak I couldn't even hold the phone. I couldn't even hold anything, and I just laid there. But just seeing everybody, just let me know that there was support, that they were there. So that brought me through, and it's got me, where I'm at right here today. God's name, God's good name. My church family, you all pray. Yes.
Yeah, prayer is a game. I tell people prayer is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Having a relationship with God is so, so critical.
Yes, it is.
Without that relationship, it's almost like, how can you really live?
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely. Mm-hmm.
David, Dr. Ellens,
Yeah, I think Sister Ellen's experience is a very extreme case and very needed conversation because people don't really understand how bad the COVID can actually be. And I'm sure she can attest that that was serious. And, I'm one of those doctors that I was able to do both outpatient and inpatients. And I've seen some of those real severe cases, some that had some favorable results and some that did not. And then and what I can attest to, there was a similar patient that Sister Ellen experienced. Your oxygen level dropped and you have no idea that it's dropped.
No.
And you look around, it's like, why are you looking at me so hard? And then, so they start you on this high flow oxygen, so normally you think 4 or 6 liters no, you're starting at 20 liters, 30 liters. Then sometimes you go up to 100, and then they have to sort of wean you down to get you down to where you're supposed to be. And then they give you some special medicine, some steroids. I mean, it's a lot to go into that stuff. And then so the patient I had that was similar to you, it just so happened I was both of their doctors at one point. So I will make sure I will call him and let him know, well, your wife's okay, and and then give the information. But that support is gone unless you're just fortunate to have a nursing staff and a doctor that comes and care. And if you got somebody that don't really know you, then that's what you're gonna get. You'll get someone that just, they're gonna do their job, but you don't get that little extra that you need. Sister Ellen got somebody to say you gonna make it. So you don't always get that.
That's right.
And that's for free, but nobody always give that to you. But that was God coming into your home and manifests himself and saying, Sister Ellen needs to know that I am not going to abandon her.
Right.
And so that, so you just don't know that was a God moment.
Oh yeah.
That was a God moment that got you out of there.
Oh yes.
And then so our young people, a lot of them, you got, we grown. So you got to make up your mind what you're going to do. But I tell each person that comes and see me that, especially the guys, you are the head of the household. Okay, so the decision you make is the decision you make for people around you. Okay, so although you may not agree, because when I learned, when I first got my first flu shot in residency, the doctor told me, well, you don't get it for you get it for the people around you. You get it for your family. Right. And the same thing goes now is that, this is really a test of obedience.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the Bible, there's pestilence always in the land,
Mhm.
and God gives instructions of what to do
Right.
so that we can march on and then heal the land.
Yes.
And until everybody's on board, this thing is going to be around. So you can be asymptomatic, no symptoms at all, and
Yeah.
spread it to somebody else. And then so what is your stewardship? What is your
Mhm, mhm.
responsibility around your peers and around your family members when you make a decision that you want to do it? So that's the kind of decision. Now everybody has to sort of search and figure out what that's going to be. But we should always have that in mind because we're responsible. I'm responsible for you. I'm responsible for Sister Ellen. She's responsible to me, to make sure that we have the best sense of ourselves. And until we learn that principle, then we'll still be walking in this wilderness, wondering what's the next variant coming out, because we cannot totally eradicate this thing. We had a similar presentation like this back in 1918 when we had that Salk virus and polio come around, and it wasn't until everybody took that thing until we don't see it no more. And it's funny how things come back in another century and something else comes. So it's the same lesson. It's the same thing that we have to learn of how to get past this thing. And unfortunately, it's going to take everybody, or mostly everybody, on board to do it. And then there's those that, when it's a big variety, a big majority that don't want to do it, then we'll have the same problem. Also, I just want to quickly just give an update. There's usually a question about mixing vaccines, whether you can go from Johnson & Johnson to Moderna and or Pfizer, or you have to stay in the same one. There's new data that came out. Johnson & Johnson is no longer recommended. No longer recommended. Those who have Johnson & Johnson should switch to Moderna or Pfizer. Do not do the Johnson & Johnson because of its high risk of thrombosis and other things. So it's no longer recommended. That's all I got, Virginia.
Okay, can you repeat that again, just in case some of us missed that about the vaccines again?
There's new data that just came out. There are people that have questions because they had made a statement. Can you switch your vaccine? Can you go from Johnson & Johnson to Moderna? Can you go to Moderna to Johnson & Johnson? So the new data shows that Johnson & Johnson is no longer recommended for anything. No boosters, don't get it for the first time. Don't get it at all because of its high risk of thrombosis. So the mRNA viruses, which are Pfizer and Moderna, those are the ones that you can use. So those that had Johnson & Johnson can switch to Pfizer or Moderna. Do not switch from Moderna to Johnson & Johnson.
So you could do Moderna, and you do Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson.
You can do Moderna to Moderna, Pfizer to Pfizer, Pfizer to Moderna, Moderna to Pfizer, no Johnson & Johnson.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm just repeating it.
Do not do any Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson is off the table.
So what is thrombosis? Can you?
Thrombosis is a ability to, where blood starts to get thickened and causes clot. People see that when they get a pulmonary embolism, when it clots around the lungs. You see it in your legs. It's called deep venous thrombosis. Clots can also occur in your brain, and that's called a stroke.
Yeah.
Clots can occur in your heart, and that's called a heart attack.
So this is very new news because in the past they were saying, how you can switch certain things up. So thank you for the update that this is current information. And we know in the African-American community, we have a high rate of heart attacks. We have a high rate of strokes. We have a high rate of diabetes. We have a high rate of asthma, pretty much a lot of chronic conditions. And the vaccine is really critical for those who have these chronic illnesses, so that if you do get exposed and develop COVID, then the severity will not be as bad as if you had not had any vaccines at all. So thank you for that information. I have one question for you. Can you share too? I don't think we've ever heard from a medical professional's perspective in terms of what it's like for you in terms of the illnesses that you're seeing, the death that you're seeing related to COVID infections since March. And then talk about how do you do self-care for yourself, to keep yourself as healthy
Well,
as possible.
yeah, thanks, Virginia. I'd be glad to share. So when COVID first came out, one of the things I was concerned about was trying to make sure that I was properly protected when I'm seeing patients in the office. As I found out, is that patients will come in and then later you see, oh, this sounds like a COVID case, and then find out that this was COVID. I was very thankful when the vaccines came out, because I told my wife, she's like, you're gonna get the shot? I said, yes, I'm going to be first in line, because I was not happy being in a position where I was unprotected and not knowing what's going to happen next. And I've seen some of my colleagues actually be sick, and then they have to take 1 to 2 or 3 weeks off. Some of them are older, and which affect them harder. And then you see the same ones in the hospital go through the same thing. Although we put all that gear on, I just felt just unprotected. Vaccinations, for me, I have not had one case, or and I've seen lots of COVID patients. I've been in the hospital on call, ER call, and they come in, make sure I have my gear. But what I try to do is I do those vitamin things we sort of talked about earlier. Vitamin C, vitamin D. I do a baby aspirin, a multivitamin. Make sure I drink lots of liquids, and then make sure that I eat healthy, and then make sure I exercise. So this is all foundational things. Going back to foundations of if you back in the day, when you're eating and your parents cook for you, then they was all in there, and they make you take all that stuff. We talked about some other things earlier, Father John and castor oil. Well, people laugh at that, but then you was not sick, not sick at all. So making sure that you do your foundational things and being healthy. Virginia mentioned about these comorbidities, diabetes, heart disease. Don't take your blood pressure pill. It's later for all that stuff. This thing is hard enough without you messing up your health. All this stuff you have to take advantage of. Someone that's uncontrolled diabetes, then that's a high risk factor. If you get the COVID, then you might not be so favorable. We have to put yourself in the right position. This is actually a war. This is a fight, and one can think this is a spiritual fight. We have to have our mind right. You have your health right, and it's all about stewardship. So, and then you want to look for your fellow man, and family members or whoever that may be. It's like, if you're healthy, then they'll be healthy. If you're asymptomatic and still have it, then you're not healthy. And because you don't have symptoms, but you're still carrying the virus, then that doesn't make you healthy either. So a lot of this goes back to stewardship and what does God expect from us, and then how do I get out of this wilderness experience? Once you figure that out, then you'll be successful and be able to go miles in life.
Thank you. I have one question that was sent to me, and it's going back to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The question is, what is the time frame for those symptoms that you described, showing up with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine?
Okay, so what I have shared was that there seems to be more propensity of getting thrombosis. Not to say that everybody gets that. The chances are probably higher risk, and that's why CDC decided to not go forward as far as using that as a vaccination tool. So let me be clear. I did not say that you're going to get it. In fact, most people probably have not gotten it, but because they've done studies and know that this is not as safe as they thought it was, then they're make a decision to pull that out.
Okay. Thank you for that. I had another question here. For you, Sister Ellen, people are saying, thank you for sharing your story and thanking you for being here with us today to be able to share your story. So you got that. And to talk a little bit about testing. So David, you want to take that question about the different tests now that we're seeing a surge in vaccine, we're seeing a surge in the coronavirus infections, particularly now that we have Delta and Omicron. So testing in terms of, I guess, testing places, when do you go get tested? How often do you go get tested? Those kind of things like that.
Okay, so some of the questions or concerns that come out about testing are, first, let's talk about when should you be tested. So there is a window, okay? And so the window is somewhere between 3 and 7 days of exposure. So if you sort of figure out when you got exposed and you go day 1 or day 2, then it's not enough stuff in your system to actually get a positive test. So you may get a false negative. So whenever you decide when you're tested, then when you were exposed, then you want to make sure that you're in that window, okay? And then if you don't know, then it's better to be tested at day 5 than day 3, because you want you don't want to get tested 5 times to sort of figure out if you're positive or negative because you're not really sure. So a lot of times people can sort of pinpoint what happened. You know, I've had a patient today, you know, or yesterday. He's works as a mechanic, right? So he said, well, if nobody talks to me when I'm a mechanic, I'm good. I said, well, what you do on the weekend? I went to the casino. So, you know, and so then I was like, okay, well, so now I'm looking at his Saturday, and now it's Tuesday and Wednesday. That's 3 days, and then we found out what the results were. You know, so testing and that time period is very important. Now, when the COVID first came out, you know, we had the test to sort of let you know whether you had COVID or not. And then we had another test that looked at the antibodies. Well, the antibodies during that time, people were thinking or postulating that if I've been exposed to COVID, then I'm immune. Well, there is some immunity, but it's not something that's long lasting. So I think the immunity, according to some of the infectious disease specialists, is up to 30 days. So it's nothing long lasting like we see in the Pfizer and the Moderna, but that's not enough to sort of carry you throughout the whole year. So that particular testing, you know, people want to know if they've been exposed. Well, we can test that, but does it have any medical significance? When, in my opinion, it probably does not. And thirdly, please recognize that, you know, you had your first shot, your Moderna, Pfizer, had your second shot, and then now we sort of understand that it's in 6 months, your vaccination response wanes and goes down. So Pfizer goes down to 50% and Moderna is around 70% or something like that. And then as you wait longer, then it goes down some more. So it's really important that after the 6-month period that you get your refills, and especially now with the surge going on, you know, it's your vaccine response has been altered and you're not really fully protected like you was. The expectation of your protection with both your shots and your vaccination, well, with both your shots was at 90-something%. Even Omicron, they were estimating was like 88%. So when your shots are weighing down and it's been too long, that some people come in 8 months later and it's like, oh, I didn't get my booster. it's almost like you don't have much immunity. So you definitely want to make sure that you pay attention to that so that you can make sure that you're protected. Virginia, Doug, hit the points.
Yes, another question. A couple of my coworkers got the rapid test and were negative, and they did the other test and was positive. Which one should we believe?
Well, the rapid test, as far as sensitivity and specificity, is not as sensitive and specific as the PCR test. So the PCR test is your gold standard. But I would go to say that, like my first point, that you probably would have had a positive rapid test if you did it in the right time frame. So that can be just as effective. In fact, they're pushing the home test and you can do it all at home. But if you take the point of making sure that your allotment time is proper in the right period, then that will improve your sensitivity of your rapid test.
Awesome. Oh, that's a similar question. Okay. Closing comments from, wait, hold on. Oh, no. Okay. So closing comments from, I'll start with Sister Ellen.
Very informative from the doctor and everyone else. I did get some valuable information, which I can take and run with. Thank you all for having me. Thank you very much for allowing me to share with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being willing to share. Sister Sandra, closing comments.
Was I muted? Oh.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sister Sandra, you're muted.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I would just like to say that self-care is very important. And the COVID test, the COVID vaccination is very important, I would say also. As Dr. Elliott said, that the more people that go ahead and get this test, maybe it will eliminate these continual viruses coming through. So we need to move our numbers up as far as how many people are being vaccinated so that we can get rid of this disease rapid throughout our society. If we want things to kind of calm down, it's very necessary that we do our part in getting vaccinated, getting our family vaccinated, and just speaking that into the family, speaking that into the community. It's needed. If we want to see a change in our environment, this is something that we need to do. And thank you.
Thank you. Vernell?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off of that and just say, let's take the necessary steps to make sure that we're all as healthy as we possibly can be, not only with just getting vaccinated, but really monitoring what you do, what you eat, how you eat. If you're taking your vitamins, even if you're not sick, going and getting checked up on regularly. And, if you do feel sick or, don't hesitate to get checked out or, make sure you wear your mask. And that's one good thing that I feel came from COVID is even without the disease going on, I just like the fact of people having a mask. It just kind of cuts down on a lot of germs being spread. So make sure you wear your mask and just be safe. Thanks for having me.
Carol?
Yes, thanks to Oakdale and Reverend Dr. Griffin and Virginia, you and your team for being deliberate and determined to impact in such a critical space as public health. We need the church more today than ever before. And I know that you guys will continue with these efforts and these works because, as we shared here tonight that we don't see this going away anytime soon. Other variants are going to come out because folks are still hesitant across the globe to getting vaccines. And we see how quickly that travels across the globe. Omicron was not in the United States for the week, and then a week or so later, it was in one state, and then it quickly spread it, across the nation. So these efforts and these works are critical to helping people to stay safe and healthy, and much work is still yet to be done. So kudos to Oakdale and the other Chicago churches that to helping to keep folk informed and safe and sound.
Thank you so much to everyone. And thank you, Oakdale family and friends who are watching this. Next week, we will have another special blast centered around those who are having conversation about vaccine hesitancy. So we're looking forward to having you to join us again on next Wednesday at 7. Thank you. Enjoy your evening and enjoy your Christmas. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.